Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Postgame Pints podcast. I'm Mitch Gallo with Sean Campbell, episode number 109, and it couldn't come at a better time. The first round of the playoffs is over, and the second round is just about to begin. So, on this podcast, Sean and I are going to take you through what happened in round one and what we think is going to happen in round two.
Yeah, we already put our picks. Check us out on Twitter at Sean R. Campbell, Mitch Weigel. If you're watching via video, you could see it right below. But if you're listening on every possible way that you could listen to a podcast, it's Sean R. Campbell, Mitch Weigel. We threw our picks out there for round one and round two. And Mitch, I'm feeling pretty good. I went 7 for 8 and 3 bonus points for nailing the amount of games. And you went 5 for 8 and 2 bonus points. So I'm technically up 10-7.
Yeah, playing a little catch up after round one. If you and I are turning this into some type of competition,
Everything's a competition between me and you. You know that.
The first round could have went so differently. 5 of the series go to Game 7, and 2 of those Game 7s go to overtime. And in those 2 overtime Game 7s, we had the other team winning. So, in reality, if Pittsburgh or Dallas won in overtime, we'd be talking about a tie and 6 apiece. Or if they both won in overtime, I'd have 7 wins and you would have just the 5. So I'm playing catch up, but man, it was close in round one. What a first round we saw.
Yeah, Mitch, I'll say this to you, okay? And you know I say this a lot. I like to say this to people. I have 7. You have 5. Next round, be better.
Well, Sean, after round one concludes, which teams are you saying need to be better?
I think Tampa Bay needs to be better. I thought they beat a very good Leafs team, and they were great in Game 7, and they were very good in Game 6. Not the best team in overtime, but they were the ones that were able to pull it off. And you could talk about the Leafs. That's fine. They lost. But I think that there's something left in the tank in Tampa Bay. It was a very tough matchup for them in that opening round, and I think that there's something left for them to step into, because when they won the Stanley Cup, I felt that they played better than they did in that first round, and the Leafs didn't beat, to me, the very best version of the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, and and anytime you have a championship team, there's going to be some turnover, and I don't think they get the same production or same impact from the third line like they did when they had Yanni Gourde, Barclay Goodrow, and Blake Coleman. And you look at the impact that those guys have had, right? Like Blake Coleman is on a Calgary team that was out of the playoffs last year, is now in. Barclay Goodrow's on a Rangers team that was out of the playoffs last year and is now in. And, Yanni Gourde was a pretty good player too. How about Nick Paul, Sean? Another good pickup by Julian Brisebois at the deadline. The big move was Hagel, but it was really Nick Paul with the 2 goals in Game 7. And to me, that was kind of the difference between Toronto and Tampa Bay. When I look at the other series, the star players really took over, right? So Edmonton wins Game 7. Connor McDavid in Games 6 and 7 was unbelievable. The Calgary Flames win in 7. Johnny Gaudreau assists on the Tkachuk goal, overtime winner. You look at the New York Rangers, Zibanejad tying goal, Panarin game winner.
G-Dub.
What's that?
The G-Dub.
The G-Dub. But in Toronto, Stamkos, Kucherov, Point got hurt, so I'll give him a bit of a pass. Those guys up front didn't do much for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Marner and Matthews get an assist on the Riley goal, but they were also quiet. The Leafs, to me, needed a player to step up the way Nick Paul did for Tampa Bay, and they didn't get that player in that game.
Yeah, and you talk about other teams that I think can be a little bit better. The Rangers showed their youth in their series against the Penguins. They also showed their ability to score and to never give up and not count themselves out. But I thought Shesterkin was human, and he was the league's best goalie this year. And if the Rangers can learn from their defensive mistakes, because in their zone, they were pretty terrible in that series overall against the Penguins, I think they'll need to improve to face a very good Carolina team. So when you go around and ask teams that need to be a little bit better, I think Tampa Bay needs to be a bit better. I also think that the New York Rangers, I don't know what you think about out west, or if you're on the same page as me with the Rangers, if you want to stay there.
No, I'm with you. But before we start talking about the teams in round two, I want to finish on with the teams that are going home after
Mhm.
round one, and just your thoughts really on the futures of like we could put Toronto aside and maybe do another podcast, but I think that
We got
storyline's
all
been
summer for that.
yeah, the story's kind of been beaten into the ground at this point. But just what the future holds for the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Boston Bruins, two teams that have had sustained success over a long period of time. But because of that, we're starting to see some of their players get older, and maybe we see some movement on those rosters.
Yeah, look, and I guess the names that we're all staring at is Patrice Bergeron, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Letang. Let's just go with those three. I will say I think 2 out of the 3 stay where they are. And if it's not 2 out of 3, you're going to get one moving on, one staying, and one retiring. To me, Bergeron's Bruin or retirement, and I think he's coming back. I think you just make it happen with a player like that. Evgeny Malkin, I know you could talk about the Capitals this, or he could go wherever he wants, and there's rumors about KHL. I don't think that's going to happen. Evgeny Malkin, I think, is staying in Pittsburgh too. I think that's the easy one. Chris Letang is going to be a commodity. I think people are going to come knocking on the door, and he might say, "I want to stay in Pittsburgh," but I don't think that. I think they're ready to move on, and I think that he's going to be. You look at the market, you look at the defenseman, and what he could do. I think he could still play. He'll get 4 years on the open market. You may think that's too much, but you know what free agency is. I think that he's the guy that will be easily enticed elsewhere than anybody else. So I look at the future of those teams. I think it's going to be status quo, except for Chris Letang.
Sean, you're wrong. I am going to tell you right now on the postgame podcast, you're wrong. It's going to be you're 0 for 3 here. None of them are going to be playing with the teams they played with last year. Bergeron is going to retire.
I
Once
said
you have,
retirement or Bruins. Okay, I
yeah,
said
yeah,
retirements or
I
Bruins. Okay,
got you. I got you there.
I think Malkin's back.
But Bergeron is retiring. Once you have one foot out the door, you're done. I'd be surprised if he came back for one more kick at the can. Malkin and Letang are both gone. They will be on different teams next year. I'm almost willing to put a Gallo guarantee on it. The group that owns the Pittsburgh Penguins rely on analytics so much.
Mm-hmm.
This is a new ownership group coming in. I don't know too much about the soccer background with Liverpool, but I know how they handled the Boston Red Sox. And they didn't pay Mookie Betts the money that he deserved. So he got traded to the Dodgers. And they are about to do the same with Xander Bogaerts. Those are two very popular players in Boston. But they look at the analytics and age and what these guys are projected to do as the age clock goes up and the production goes down, and they have it in a chart. And that's why both those guys will not be back. They already sent them low ball offers.
Yeah.
Like, you kidding me? You kidding me? Offering Evgeny Malkin and Chris Letang for what they've done? 3-year, $15 million deals? You want to pay these guys $5 million a year? Like, seriously, man. That to me is already a slap in the face, an insult to guys that have won Stanley Cups with your team. And look, I understand.
I said Letang was moving on, by the way.
Yeah, but not Malkin. You think Malkin's
Yeah,
back?
so
No
you
chance.
said I was wrong with all three. We disagree on one. I said retirement, and I said that Letang was moving on. So we just disagree on Malkin. That's fine.
0.
Don't say 0 for 3 because
0
we
for
were.
3. You said
But
either one is gone or
yeah, but I said I said Letang's the one that's going to be more enticing on the market, and I think our disagreement here is on Malkin. I
yeah.
think Malkin stays. You
You know
think Malkin's gone?
you know what's going to be fun, Sean? When
What?
Patrice Bergeron retires and the Boston Bruins son of Evgeny Malkin.
That would be great. I'm in. Sold. Or how about Malkin moves on, Bergeron retires, and then gets pulled out of retirement by Crosby to play with Crosby. How
Yeah,
about
that's not
that?
happening, but that would be great.
How about that? Yeah, it's going to be interesting what happens with some of these teams. And like we said, we're not even touching on the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think that there's some huge storylines around the National Hockey League, and I can't wait to dive into it as we roll into free agency. We roll into the draft. All right. So you want to touch on what's happening in the second round? You want to finish up in the West? How do you want to do this here on the Post Game Pints podcast?
Well, I mean, I think the West is pretty simple, right? Dallas exceeded expectations. What are you going to do with some of the older players? Klingberg's going to be gone. He's going to test unrestricted free agency. Tell you, if I'm a team like Montreal, and we're usually Montreal centric on this podcast, Gurianov seems to be in the doghouse there with that team. He might be a player I'd take a flyer on. I thought he was so good in the playoffs when they went to the final, and he's still, I believe, I don't have the info in front of me. I think he's only 24 years old, a former first round pick. I think you get some interesting buy low value there right now with how they feel about him. I wonder how they're going to handle Radulov since he was also scratched, and that's your boy,
Yeah.
Sean, but he doesn't move around like he used to.
Well, he's like those Dominican players in baseball. He's probably already 43.
Yeah, maybe so. So that's the situation with Dallas. Um, what's the other game seven that we saw?
LA, I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
they were kind of at
LA.
the
I
end of
mean,
the
this was
line.
Sean. LA was a great year for them, a real
Yeah.
building year for that team. Look at some of their young players. Kaliev, Byfield, some of the
I
guys on the
love
blue
Jersey. I
line.
thought Jersey was great.
Sean Dursey, he's the player they got in the Muzzin deal. So
Mhm.
sometimes you have to wait 2 years to see what a team gets as far as prospects in a trade. You're right. I like Dursey. Then you wonder about Turcotte coming in a year from now. I think it was a nice building year, and
Mhm.
you might think I'm a little crazy here. They haven't released the Jack Adams Trophy yet, right? The
No,
nominees. No,
no.
that one's either coming tomorrow or Thursday. To me, no one's talked about it. Todd McClellan with that group, getting them into not just a playoff spot, but one of the two division spots up for grabs. I have to have Todd McClellan. He did a great job coaching that team this year.
Yeah, I think you got to look at that. And interesting, I wonder what they're going to do with just on that Andrew Burnett, right? Taking over Quenville. That's a tough, weird situation, and still going on to win the President's Trophy. You're like, the players did it, but I mean, the coach is the one that's got to manage that whole chaos that's happening too.
Yeah, but you know
So
how it is, Sean, with the coach of the year. It's always which coach did the more with the least. Not that it's right, not that
who's
you're wrong.
surprised? Yeah, who's surprised? You're going to look at Minnesota, right? I
Yep,
think you're
Dean
going to look
Evanston's for
there.
sure going to get some love.
I think he's going to get some love. I mean, sometimes you just got to go straight to the source and go straight to the top two. That's how I feel with that. I know we want to get our picks in.
Yeah,
You want to start doing our picks for the second round?
yeah, we're well into the podcast. Let's see what's going to happen here, Sean,
Look at this.
with round
Look
number
at
two.
this. If you're checking us out on the tube, our post game pints picks, we got Gallo and Campbell. We got to look at the Eastern Conference first, and of course, everybody's staring at Florida and Tampa Bay. And Mitch, I think you flip flopped on this one, but I need your official pick here.
Don't call me a flip flopper.
No, before you made your pick before the series started. That's
I
fine.
I
I'm just
didn't
saying before
flip
the series
flop.
started.
I
Yeah.
changed my mind based
Okay.
on more information.
Okay.
Yes,
That's
I
had everything to do with Braden Point.
and that's a big factor, Sean. Come on. Like, we're talking about a guy who has been a monster for Tampa Bay in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I know Hedman's been incredible in the last two runs, and Hedman won the Conn Smythe last year. But if there was a runner up for that award, it would go to Braden Point. This guy knows how to elevate his game.
Mhm.
He knows how to play at the most difficult time of year. I think if you go back and look at that series against the Islanders, where it was so tight checking, every time they needed a goal, though, it seemed like Braden Point was either scoring it or in on it. And now you're taking him out of the lineup. And based on the way he was carried off the ice in game 7 against Toronto, and the fact that he's not playing in game 1, I can't see him playing in the series. And even if he does, I don't think he's going to be a big factor because he's going to be limited.
Yeah, it's still Braden Point though, and I think that they always have the guys to fill a void. And I think a guy like Sorelli may not be able to do the offensive things, but he's be able to get that puck around to the right people. So I don't mind that they're bringing in Sorelli to play that bigger role. We'll see if they do actually go to the farm system to call somebody up because they're a farm team. It's playing in the AHL
Playing
playoffs.
11 forwards in
Yeah.
game one against the Panthers. Listen, I also think that watching the first round between Tampa Bay and Toronto,
Yeah.
the Tampa Bay Lightning are vulnerable. I can see it. They
Mhm.
have holes that they didn't have before.
So you're
Toronto
taking
Toronto exposed them. Toronto just didn't clamp down. Toronto just didn't step on their throats, but they were there to be had. Toronto just didn't win. Florida will. I'm going Florida in 6.
Oh, there you go. Florida 6. There's your official pick from Mitch Gallo. Look, I kind of have the mentality, Mitch, when it comes to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I know that Tampa wasn't the greatest team to beat Toronto. I thought that there were some flaws. Yes, they weren't perfect, but they're also the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I think that there's still more in the tank. Now, two things can happen here with the Tampa. They can feed off of that win against Toronto, which Toronto was very good, the best version of Toronto we've seen in a very long time, and they still beat them. They still beat them, and I don't think that they were at 100%. I don't think Vasilevsky was at 100% performance rate, and they can still go out there and beat Florida. I'm going to go. You have a proven team and an unproven team. I'm going to go with the proven team every single time. I'm taking in 6 the Tampa Bay Lightning to beat the Florida Panthers, but I'm really looking forward to the series. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun. So I
Must watch
got Tampa.
television.
Yep. It's the Battle of Florida, the Battle of Sunshine State. Should be good. Back-to-back years you have them in the playoffs. 2 of the top teams in the National Hockey League. This should be good. But I do agree with you. Tampa needs to be better than they were against Toronto to beat Florida. All right. Carolina, New York. Who do you got?
All right, Carolina, New York breaks down very simple in my
Mm-hmm.
mind. New York has the edge in goal. Carolina has the edge on the blue line. Up front, offensively, it's a wash. I think Carolina proved to be the better team in the season, and I think Carolina has more playoff experience to lean on compared to the New York Rangers. Carolina's going to have to figure out their power play. It kind of was quiet and not up to par in round one against Boston. I'll give credit to the Bruins there too for doing a good job on the PK. But I'm going to stick with 6 games here and go with the Carolina Hurricanes. Campbell, you know I've been talking about Carolina for 2 years now. So I'm just going to keep going with Carolina until they finally win.
Yeah, so I knew you would. I knew you like Carolina. This is not why I took the New York Rangers in this one. There's always a team that stirs the pot just a little bit. Hey, it was the Canadians last year in the Stanley Cup final that stirred the pot and shocked the world, and just that team that you were like, how are they there? They're just feeling that vibe. They had an emotional come from behind win against the Pittsburgh Penguins. They are a flawed team. If you ask me who's a better team, I'm going to say Carolina. But I do think there's something special about this New York Rangers team. And I don't think Shesterkin was at his best. I think he will be at his best against the Carolina Hurricanes. And I have in 7 another dramatic series, which I think this is a series that I can't wait to watch. I think there's just too many fun players. Aho, Teravainen, Zibanejad, Panarin, Shesterkin, Adam Fox, like you name it. I just want to watch this series. I think it's a great drama with the whole D'Angelo thing and the New York Rangers. I am taking the New York Rangers in 7.
All right.
So now we move over to the West.
I like how so
Colorado.
far we don't have the same pick.
Yeah, I know. Colorado, and because you're trying to play catch up too. You're either it's going to be a big hill for you to climb or not. Colorado, St. Louis. I know a lot of people are just all in on Colorado until they make that Stanley Cup final. They were the best team in the West. But who you going with here?
They're stacked. This is the best version of the team they're going to have. They only have one more year at McKinnon on the cookie deal. Sean, this is the team to beat.
Mm-hmm.
And again, with the format, though, it's unfortunate that they have to play St. Louis now because I think Colorado wins this series, but no team is going to push Colorado, like the St. Louis Blues, are going to push them in this second round series. They're going to win, but it won't be easy, and they are going to leave this series with bumps and bruises. They are going to get banged around in the series, but I'm going with Colorado in 6.
I think if Colorado wants to be battle tested and make it to the final against whoever they're going to face in the Eastern Conference, or if they're going to face the Calgary team, which I think will grind them out if they get to that next round, they need that warm up round. And that warm up round is the St. Louis Blues. I think the Blues are going to put up a much bigger fight than Nashville did. I think the St. Louis Blues will put up a much better fight than Minnesota would have. But I am not taking anything away from the Colorado Avalanche. They are the best team in the National Hockey League, at least in the Western Conference, for a reason. I know that they're chomping at the bit. Nathan MacKinnon is primed and ready. They've added their pieces. I as well. Just like you say Colorado in 6. I'm going Colorado in 5. Even though I think it's going to be a tough series, you won't have any blowout games. They're going to scratch and claw in their wins, but we both have Colorado in this one, and I think it was tough for us to take the Blues, even though we think that they're going to put up a good fight, Mitch.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so we have that. We have one series left, and it's the Battle of Alberta, Calgary or Edmonton.
Sean, look, I know you already picked Edmonton to win the Stanley Cup. Almost, I really called you out for being wrong about the Malkin, Letang, Bergeron thing. Sorry if I, took what you said and mixed up your words a little bit and took them out of context. I might do that to you at times because I find it funny. But I'm not going to take anything you're about to say about the Edmonton Oilers out of context. You are wrong here. You are so wrong. This is the easiest series to predict. And I am somebody who, over the course of the entire year, called out the Calgary Flames and said they were overrated.
You've turned.
I haven't turned. They are still overrated. However, the way this stupid format of the NHL works, we get the luxury of seeing the Battle of Alberta, but it is a mismatch. This is all Calgary. This is the easiest series to predict in the second round. I'm going Flames. I'm going to give the Oilers 6. I don't know why. I should give them only 5 or 4, but I'm going to give them 6. But I think this is a terrible matchup for the Edmonton Oilers. Besides for having Connor McDavid, I don't see a single area where Calgary is better than Edmonton is.
Well, look, I am taking Edmonton, and I'm not going to hide from the fact that I'm taking Edmonton. So I'm going to throw this up right away, okay? I'm taking Edmonton. And I took Edmonton to win the Stanley Cup this year, but that was before I knew Leon Draisaitl was going to be banged up in this series against Calgary. So that
sucks,
does change things. But I'm not going to change my pick. How can I change my Stanley Cup pick even though there's one little injury? So Mitch, I'm taking the Oilers. Yes, their goalie's better. Yes, their defense is better, but they do not have a Connor McDavid, and I do think that he is a special player. He's going to do something special this year, and I have Connor McDavid carrying. We don't see this anymore. That one player carries an entire team in a series. He had 14 points in the first round. He might get 16 points against the Calgary Flames, and they might even only have 17 goals in the entire series. I think that's what McDavid's going to do. It's going to be the Connor McDavid show. That is going to be the difference. I'm with you. Goalie, defense, the 12 forwards as a whole. Yeah, Calgary's got it all. But Calgary's not a perfect team. They do blow it offensively. They stick to their defensive system a little too long. Sometimes you put all the systems in the world, and Connor McDavid's just going to break it because he's that good. So I am just going with the Connor McDavid factor. Hopefully Leon Draisaitl adds in a little bit because he's going to get healthier as the series goes along. But that's my only argument I have here, and I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with my guns, and I can't wait to see how this plays out.
I like that you're not changing your mind like
Why
I did.
would I?
Well, like I did with the Panthers.
You did.
Tampa Bay Lightning.
Hey, look, my bracket looks really good. I filled out my bracket. My final four is still in place. The only misfire I had was a series that I could have taken the Blues. I took Minnesota. That was like out of all the 8 series, that was the 8th one. I was like 7 games. It could be either one. They're so close. You look at how they finished in the season. So what? I missed that one. But everything else is kind of played out how I thought it's played out. So I'm going to stick with my guns on this one. And I just think that this is Connor McDavid's year.
After everything I said all year on both the Post Game Pints podcast and TSN 690, I cannot believe that I am taking both the Panthers and Flames to be in the conference finals.
Uh, you're flip flopping, my friend. Stick with your guns. Those are our picks. I got Tampa Bay, New York, Colorado, and Edmonton. Mitch has got Florida, Carolina, Colorado, and Calgary. Put your picks down. Mitch, what do they do down below to put their picks in?
Click, listen, and subscribe.
I love it. And we got anything else? Are we done?
No, I'm done. You can go watch your hockey now.
All right. All I'm doing, I'm watching hockey right now. It's on the side. This is everything's everywhere. But I need the screen that we're
all the
using right.
games.
I know, but I need this screen to use to watch the other game. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I'll say goodbye.
All right. Bye.